It is when I learned about the history of Japan that I didn't know when I was back in Japan, especially the history of the Japanese Empire and the war. For me, the war was about what Japan suffered, atomic bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki and stuff like that. But when I came to Pearson, I learned from friends like Iggy, from the Philippines and Singapore and Indonesia. I learned for the first time in my life what the Japanese Empire did to other Asian peoples. And I was made to realize that the lack of honest historical education back in my own country. And I think that's not just in Japan, but everywhere. So that made me realize the importance of interacting with people from different parts of the world that you get to, through them, you actually get to learn the other side of the history of your own country that you didn't know. That was a very cherished, life changing moment for me. Because Pearson College upholds this ideal of international education, international communication, global peace. It's all ideal, but not everything goes so ideally, Pearson, because each of us come from our own historical, cultural bias and baggage. So there's always a cultural clash or even racism, you know. Um, so I once was part of this circle, the black students at Pearson, and they were talking about how racism is still rampant on the Pearson campus or from the faculty members. I was very shocked to hear that. But it was very learning experience for me to hear their perspective. Um, so it's good to talk about all these ideals, but I think Pearson College also offers freedom to talk about what's not ideal. Again, it was life changing for me because I got to know the history of Japan that I didn't know before. It set a foundation for what I do now. What I do now is write and organize and speak on the issues that the majority of Japanese people don't like to talk about: the history of Japanese Empire, sex slavery, Nanjing massacre, and inconvenient history like that. I talk about them. So for that reason, I'm called anti-Japanese and all that. But I think you have to stand up, for the people whose voices are unheard. And I think that's a lesson that I learned from my experience at Pearson. Take risks and stand up for the people, again, whose voices are unheard. And in my observation, Pearson College put together all the countries, global north and global south together, but they're basically all elites. Once I was talking to this resident, a friend in Victoria, and I was telling him, "Oh, I went to Pearson College," but he had a negative view of Pearson. Actually, he said, "Oh, they're all a bunch of elites," and that kind of shocked me. Oh, that's how you think, and maybe that's what we are, and maybe we're part of the ruling elites, or that the source of the suffering in this world. It's enormous inequity in this world. Maybe we're part of the problem, and it's good to be aware of this. And with the power that you have, with the education that you have, you can choose to become a power of the positive change.